New Hampshire's first-in-the-nation primary has been around for a century, but its existence is not set in stone. Every 4 years, key Granite Staters in the major parties work hard to ensure New Hampshire casts the first votes in the process of selecting the American president. Some cycles involve bigger fights than others, but it is always a fight. Later this month, Republicans will gather for meetings in Nashville to start figuring out the 2024 primary calendar. RNC Committeewoman Juliana Bergeron will be one of those in the room at the table, and we are lucky to have her as our guest this morning on Close Up. Thank you for joining us, Juliana.
Thank you.
So how would you describe the climate right now in terms of the threat level to the first-in-the-nation primary status within the Republican Party?
Well, I think it's heated up a little with what's happened in Nevada, but I don't think it's as serious a threat as it could be. So I'm not terribly concerned, though we continue to work to make sure that we're safe here in New Hampshire.
Yeah, you know, like we were saying, you know, every 4 years it's a different, you know, matrix of issues and things like that that have to go on. You mentioned Nevada. They passed a state law essentially trying to jump the existing order and line right there. So they're doing that on the state side, trying to do a state primary. But we know that the relationship in the GOP between the early voting states is pretty good. So how does that dynamic play into the meetings that you're going into, this, you know, the state doing one thing but the party doing something else?
It plays in heavily. We're working with the other three carve-out states, including Nevada. Nevada, the Democrats want this first-in-the-nation primary, and their governor signed that bill. But it won't happen unless the RNC and the DNC both approve this. And I think the DNC probably will approve it. They've been going after the primary and the primary in all the carve-out states for years now. But I don't think you'll have a problem with the RNC.
We'll do more on the Democrats in a minute, but first I want to kind of get into the nitty-gritty of what goes on in these meetings. What's the actual work that you have to do when you get into that room? Do you have to convince other Republicans anew of the value of the New Hampshire primary?
Not really convince them anew. We just keep it in the forefront of their minds. We did an event at the summer meeting. We have a large event coming up at this meeting, but it's going to be chaired not by us, but by Bob Paduchek from Ohio, Mike Whatley of North Carolina, and Dave Fossey in Maryland, all influential Republicans. And it says something simply to all of the other committee members that they're supporting the carve-out states as we stand now, or they wouldn't be hosting this event for us. So, we have a good team. We make sure we meet all the new members to the RNC. And as you know, for years, when Steve Dupree was committeeman, he invited people to come here and stay at his hotels and participate in the primaries and go to some of the events involved. And those people will never forget what they saw in New Hampshire, and they will always vote for us to keep our first-in-the-nation primary. Yeah,
and you'll be in this fight alongside Chairman Stepanek and Committeeman Ager in the meetings there, essentially. Who are some of the other allies you have, though, who are not from New Hampshire? You mentioned those names. Are there other Republicans around the country who've kind of, grown to love New Hampshire and they understand the value that the Granite State brings to the table?
Well, obviously, the representatives of the New England states are very supportive, but also, like I said, even the Republican chairman in Nevada and his people are joining us and helping us with the events. We have people from the vice chair of the party down throughout. And I don't know if you've noticed, but each of these potential presidential candidates that has come to New Hampshire, started coming to New Hampshire, they are all asked directly if they will support our first-in-the-nation primary, and we've not had anyone say no yet.
Interesting. And, there's this real backlash right now in the Republican Party against so-called cancel culture. It's one of the tenets of conservatism, right? Standing up against the tide of change, trying to uphold tradition. Does the fact that that's kind of in the air right now help you in trying to preserve something that's been around as long as the New Hampshire primary?
Well, I hope so. I have no idea whether it really helps us or not, but I certainly hope so. I think, there's something to be said for history. We can't rewrite it all. And New Hampshire has had these primaries, the first-in-the-nation primary, for 100 years. We've never messed it up. Other states have had problems. Some of the caucus states, Nevada, for example, has had problems with their caucus in the past. So New Hampshire is not the state. If we were to change the structure, shouldn't start here in New Hampshire.
I know you mentioned the Democrats earlier, not your party, but it's a big part of the equation when it comes to the first-in-the-nation status. The latest UNH poll showing some, frankly, pretty troubling signs there that support within the Democratic Party in New Hampshire is slipping for the first-in-the-nation status for the primary. What's your take on that?
Well, I read the poll, and I have to say that when I was younger, I often believed polls. It's been a while since I felt that way about them. We've seen a lot of polls come through for both sides. You know, one candidate's in the lead or one candidate's closing the gap, so we should put more money in. But oftentimes they're not accurate because with all the social media and everything, I don't think very many of us answer the polls anymore. I think the numbers of people doing polls has dropped, and that skews these polls. So I don't put a lot of stock into it. I do believe the Democrats, there are probably fewer Democrats who are excited by the first in the nation primary. The party tends to be more of one mind than the Republican Party. And I think if the party itself doesn't want to see this happen, the voters here in New Hampshire don't want to see it happen. But I think we have much stronger support among Republicans than you're seeing in that poll.
Now, what happens in the long run, do you think, if we do see a greater partisan divide on support for the primary? That is, if Republicans continue to essentially support and cherish it, will Democrats either become indifferent or perhaps oppose it altogether?
We'll see change. We'll see change. I suppose the Democrats could do something one way and we could do something another, but it's just this whole story of division in our country between Republicans and Democrats and between people in general is rather upsetting, because I truly believe that most of us, and I know I've said this to you before, most of us agree on more things than we disagree on. But we have, vocal parts of both our parties, and they get a lot more press. They're noisier, and so it makes us feel even more divided. But right now, I do feel that there's a divide there, and we'll have to be watchful as far as the first in the nation primary goes. And I think more than convincing people in the other states, we have to keep convincing people in New Hampshire and remind them that this makes hundreds of millions of dollars, even if they're not political. This brings hundreds of millions of dollars into the state. So it's good for our economy, and it brings issues to the forefront. I mean, I think the opioid crisis was hardly paid attention to until we had our first in the nation primary, and people in these audiences, in these home visits and at the larger ones, were asking these candidates, but what are you going to do about the opioid crisis? And I don't believe many of them even realized how horrible it was here and in other places until they started looking into it. Made it a national issue, and hopefully it's helped us that way. That's just one little thing that we can remind people of, that we can, have attention nationally for issues that are spreading through the country.
How important is it, do you think, that former President Trump made his first victory in his climb up the ladder in the Republican Party here in New Hampshire? Does that put a little extra shine on New Hampshire for the party nationally?
I don't think it does either way. I mean, I think that's another part where people are divided. There are still, people who want Trump to run again. I will support whoever our party's candidate is, but my gut feeling is that he's not going to run again. He is still theoretically the leader of the party because he's the immediate past president. But I doubt very many people even think about that when they, maybe his base thinks about it. It probably can't hurt, but I don't think it's particularly important here in New Hampshire.
All right, Juliana Bergeron, RNC committee woman, we thank you for your time here on Close Up.
Thank you.